Hello, my name is Vance Courtney, and today I will be demonstrating what a NAT is, explaining what packet filtering is, and also going over what a proxy server is. This is all for the course of study, Task 3, for Network Security 2. Alright, first things first is you need to identify the IP address for the router that you'll be working with. Most of these are written at the bottom of the router if it's a small office, home office router. Or it could be written down in your packaging material. For me, mine is 10.0.0.1. Some other IP addresses might be 192.168.0.1. I've already logged in the router, but ideally it would pop up with a password and username that would be required. In this case, for me, it was just admin, and then the default would be just password. This also can be found in your instruction booklet. But first things first is with NAT. What NAT does is it allows your private IP addresses, which are normally 192.168, and your 10.0.0.1s, and it's your private IPs. And what it does is it allows for those private IPs to proxy or actually go through and use your public IP to browse the internet. So instead of 5 machines having 5 different public IP addresses, you now have one public IP addresses that allow for 5 different private IP addresses to go off of that one public IP address. This really did help down with IP utilization. It also helps with a little bit as far as security, because you're hiding your true IP and all they see is your public IP. So it does help with security as far as your quote-unquote virtual firewall, so to speak. Now, as far as turning this on and off, this is done. Every router does it differently. Every setup is going to be different. For me, turning this WAN setup is simply turning it secured to open. Secured is exactly like I was saying; it hides behind it, while open allows for all the connections to come through. It doesn't. It rides off the public IP. Now, within this setup here, I can come to the LAN setup, and this is where I got my private IP settings that I could set it up for. This is the the range, the subnet mask that you would need to set up. Ideally, this is where you're going to configure your local area network setup. Now, as PAT, which is your port address translation, you can configure that under, most of them are port forwarding, or I've even seen some as virtual servers. What this does is it actually allows specific ports that traffic come through to go to a specific IP address. And as you can tell, I have some already pre-configured for my home personal setup, but it's simply you type in the IP address that you want the specific machine to receive this traffic, and then you can actually specify the port and give specific names. So as you can see, I have 30202 going to a specific machine on my network. Now that's what NAT ideally does. Some routers get more into more configurations. Mine is very simple. I just turn it on, turn it off, as far as under the WAN setup here. Now the next thing you can do is perform packet filtering. With packet filtering, you can, let's see here, you come over here to, for me it would be block sites. I can actually come over here, block specific sites, specific domains with keywords. I can say block these specific IP addresses. For me, it's located under content filtering. Again, every router is going to be different. I can block specific services. If I come over here, for instance, we're going to do this one right here. We'll add a specific service that I want to stop. I come in here, I want to block, say, for instance, my old port. I don't know why I would do this, but let's just say I want to block specifically this port here because I do not want, say, so-and-so's computer to be using uTorrent on your network. Then you can come in here and you can just type in, this is whatever you want to define it as, and then you can say for all IPs, block this specific port, or you can say only the IP address that's receiving this port and leave everybody else okay, or you can set a specific range, and then all you have to do, we'll do just specific IP, you just apply it. Give it a second, and it should show the settings here. Now, while this is doing it, I'll explain what a proxy server is. A proxy server is a method of controlling internet connections, like in a larger environment, you have a whole bunch of users that are accessing the internet. The best way to I don't know, monitor would be to set up like a proxy server. Ideally, all these connections will go through the proxy server. This is where you can do different content filtering. So like when you're at school or when you're at work, this is done to a proxy server and content filtering where you can't access sites like YouTube or anything that has video or anything that has email. They set up a proxy server, and ideally everything, all the traffic goes through there and gets monitored, logged, or you can block specific content and then it goes out. Another benefit is as far as traffic coming in and ping requests or anything when people are trying to attack a network, they're just going to see that proxy server, nothing behind it. So that kind of helps out. You can most of the time you'll set up like a proxy server in your DMZ zone. That way, it's outside your internal network. So there's another firewall that it still has to get through. But everybody sets it up a little bit different. This is taking a while because I forgot I have security settings set on Firefox. So keep that in mind while you're configuring your router. And as you can see now, right now, if I left it just like this and hit apply, you gotta really pay attention to your settings, because in this case my services aren't blocking in this case. If I say on a per schedule, I can actually set up a specific schedule. I can actually say, hey, always block this specific traffic on this specific port. And in this case I really don't want to do that, so I'm going to come over here and just delete it. But that's ideally how you would add it. There's another setting in here to where you can actually click allow real quick, to where you can actually do what they call SPI, your stateful packet inspection. Let me see here. Sorry, just give me a second here. I just went through all these different settings here. Static box. Status, attach, no. Block these sites. All this. Just trying to make sure here that I covered everything. Proxy servers, packet filtering, and the NAT. Again, some routers have stateful packet inspection. Just trying to remember exactly where mine was at, because mine's turned on by default. Just give me just a moment here. It was under WAN setup, and I might have overlooked it, but I thought it was under WAN setup here. Disable SPI firewall. There it was. I'm sorry about that. It's right here. I can actually check it to disable it. You never really want to disable your SPI firewall. Stateful packet inspection, ideally what that does is it actually, as each packet comes through, it'll thoroughly inspect it, make sure that it's not malicious and doesn't have any, intent. Primarily, the only time you really want to turn that off is like, I've seen an issue where I will, you're playing a video game or, you know, um, primarily that's it for home use. Ideally, I always like to have my SPI, turned on, to keep track of all my network connections coming across it. Um, it really does help with trying to distinguish between, a legit packet and illegit, so to speak. Um, if they only have a known connection state, then it will be allowed by the firewalls. Otherwise, other ones will be rejected. But that's pretty much it. I always like to have SPI turned on, and you can do a lot more with different routers. Some are more in detail, some are not. So really, it all depends on the type of router that you get. And of course, your Cisco router is going to be in way more detail. But this should give you a little overview as far as what a NAT is, um, as far as uh, port address translation, proxy server, and packet filtering, whether it's due to SPI, whether you do it via specific services, specific ports, however you want to set that up. Knowing these specific features will really help lock down your network and make you make you less vulnerable to different attacks and snooping methods. Um, but I think that would be pretty much it for this assignment, and thank you very much for listening.